All right. I believe we're on. Hey, note to the wise. When your camera's not working, make sure it's plugged in. I did a podcast last night. I had the mic plugged in. And for some reason, I thought that was the camera. I was like, why isn't my camera working? All right. So let's get this going on. Gotta mute that. Okay, now the sound should be fine. I will check the sound later. Let me get to some of your questions. A lot of good questions. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, this is actually new. No, these aren't new questions. Here we go. General CGJ says, hey, Matt, got a question. How do you eventually settle on what really happened in the events of the Battle of Coruscant in your mind? Do you take as canon the Clone Wars, Tartakovsky's 2003, approach more than Labyrinth or Labyrinth of Evil more? Or what did you do there? Well, remember, it is a contradiction. It is a contradiction in the EU, and it's a shame that it had to happen when Episode 3, the biggest thing ever, and they couldn't get on the same page leading up to it. I mean, it was a terrible, terrible miscommunication. And I don't really know who's got created first. Did the first draft of Labyrinth of Evil say that? Did Tarkovsky's Clone Wars always have that in their draft? And who wrote first? I don't know. But that there was a miscommunication, and they knew this stuff was coming out. You know, they knew that it was leading up to the events of Episode 3, both the series, you know, the book and the series. Why didn't they communicate there? I have no idea. You know, we asked that to Leland Chi on the forums a long time ago. And I believe he said something like, well, you know, we try to catch everything. We don't always, something like that. So this one just kind of fell through. And I remember that's kind of what he said. And I was so disappointed because, you know, that's such a big thing. It's not like a little thing. It's a big thing. So for that one, I don't know. Probably Labyrinth of Evil, since I'm more of a book guy. But I like both. And I can't remember what I said in my review. I should have gone back and looked over it. But in my review, you could say, well, from a certain point of view, right? You know, that they just didn't talk about this Jedi in the book. I don't know. But it is a contradiction, and a pretty bad one too. A careless one, I should say, a careless one, because if I'm writing a story about Jabba the Hutt and maybe something happened in one issue of a comic book that I missed, that's a minor contradiction. I understand how they missed that because these stories didn't come out around the same time, but these two stories came out around the same time, which, how does that happen? Anyway, out of all the Star Wars errors, and you name them all, which one is your favorite, and would you love to spend more time exploring on? Anything post-Jedi. Post-Jedi I love the best. Do you think the negative reputation of the Star Wars prequels get has been around? Star Wars prequels get. I don't know what that means. Oh, I mean, it may have been a mistype there. Do you think the reputation of the Star Wars prequels has been around since they came out, or do you think that reputation started to become a thing after several YouTubers like Red Letter Media made their Star Wars prequel reviews some years after all three came out? They were always there. The moment that movie came out, people were praising it, and other people were like going, this is garbage. And then episode 2 came out. They said, this is garbage. And then 3 came out. And so the hate for the prequels was always there. Remember, I personally enjoyed the prequels. However, I can't defend them because I understand some of the acting wasn't the best, and it wasn't the actor's fault. Because if you look at these actors, when they do other shows, I mean, Ewan McGregor, he did good in the prequels, but Liam Neeson, you know, I mean, he did a good Qui-Gon, but he's much better in other movies. Even Ewan McGregor is much better in other movies. Natalie Portman's been acting much better. Hayden Christensen does some really good stuff. I watched Awake earlier this year, I think, with him, and it was pretty good. It was very good, actually. And he did a good job. And, you know, he gets blasted on his acting. So I don't think it's the actors. I think it's the director. You know, I don't think George did the best job. Plus, making everything blue screen. I mean, everything, the floor, the ceiling. I was shocked at how much blue screen was used. It's hard to react around a blue screen. You need a good director to get the picture. And I don't think, remember, Harrison Ford's biggest complaint about George Lucas is his only direction is faster and more intense. That's all he said, faster and more intense. So I blame that on George. So people poked holes in it. Of course, the Red Letter Media review was very popular when it came out, but people had already disliked the prequels by that time. If the Star Wars prequels had been set in the Old Republic era instead of the Rise of the Empire era, do you think they would have been more positively received by everyone? Where he says, or would it have been hated as the current prequels are? It would have been hated as the current prequels are, and here's why. George was directing. George needs to stay on the creative front. Creatively, he's got the best imagination. He's got great ideas, just like it was with Empire and Jedi. He kind of gone over the hill at this point. Now that he did episode 1, I was not upset about, because I knew that he was going to do that one, but he talked about giving off episodes 2 and 3 excuse me, to other directors, and he didn't do that because the other directors, his friends, Ron Howard and Steven Spielberg, said, no, George, you go ahead and do it. And so we ended up with the prequels. I think it doesn't matter which era, I think the acting would have been subpar, even though the actors and actresses are great. And I would say that it just overall, it wouldn't have been there. The script definitely would have been there. He needed someone to hammer out his, shoddy script. Anyone who says, no, his script writing's great, episode 2, come on. And again, remember, I like the prequels. So I would have enjoyed the Old Republic movies. And video game fans, oh no, video game fans would have been upset by the writing and some of his directing too. So I think it may have gotten just as much hate, in my opinion. Mrs. Nerf Herder, wondering about, I don't know how to say his name, Denis Villeneuve's Dune movie I'm highly anticipating. Is that something you're excited about? No, not yet. I need to wait and see. It says, I have read Dune, but not the series. Have you read the series? Yes. All of it. And do you recommend it? Would you recommend it? Yes, I would. I'm a big Dune fan. In fact, one of my early Princes of the Universe podcasts, I talk about all the Dune. Dune is great. If you read Children of Dune next, that's a good one as well. I think it's Dune Messiah and then Children of Dune, isn't it? No, maybe Children. I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those two or three. But once you finish those, see, my cousin's wife was reading them with me back in the day, and she stopped at God Emperor of Dune because she said that this is too weird for me, and I was like, no, it's fine. And then when you get to Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune, it does get weird. But keep in mind that Frank Herbert's wife died, and she always loved the Bene Gesserit, who were the bad guys. And so for no reason whatsoever, Frank Herbert switches it and makes them the good guys. Like everything evil they've been doing for years was for a purpose. And that really throws you off now. You're like, I'm not supposed to like the Bene Gesserit now. But Frank did it for his, wife, his, deceased wife, because he wanted to honor her with that memory. But it does create a confusing last 2 books, which don't end. The original series doesn't have an ending. It has a kind of like a to be continued. And it was never going to be completed ever until Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson, who had been doing a lot of prequel books like the House of Dune trilogy, the, I don't know what they call it, the trades of Dune, like the Navigators, the Mentats, and all that. They did the prequel, Battle of Corrin books and stuff. So they did a lot of great stuff together. In fact, all that stuff is great. The Tales of Dune, which is self-published by Kevin J. Anderson, costs ridiculously way too much. It's a collection of all the ebook stuff, but that was actually fun. The only one that I thought was a waste of time was, I want to say, Winds of Doom. Paul of Dune was fine. Winds of Doom, I was like, I'm not getting the point here. I'm looking over my shelf there. But they did finish out Dune with Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune. They finish off the Dune story eventually, and those are fantastic. Sandworms of Dune has a twist within a twist within a twist ending that is wonderful. Wonderful. Loved it. Loved it. Loved that series. You can get through some of the weird stuff through Frank Herbert at the end. You'll be fine. Jedi Acolyte says, any plans on having an anniversary episode with you and the missus where you cover the top 5 love-related songs or movies? No, missus doesn't like being on the camera. She can be on the mic. She doesn't like being on the camera. Very rarely do I get her on the camera. Also, do you think that Rosh Pinnan, Jaden Korr's rival from Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy, should have been featured in other EU content? Yes. All video characters should have been featured in more Star Wars content. Kyle Katarn, very, very, very underrated. Even though he got a few, mentions and maybe, well, not even a comic book, really, a small, short comic book story. He was greatly underused in the EU, greatly underused, as they all were. A lot of and I don't know why video game characters are popular, because kids play them, they know them. It makes perfect sense to have some Kyle Katarn action. I'm not talking about the 3 Jedi Knight books by Dark Horse, which were fine. I was happy to see them, but there were tons and tons of other things that they could have done with those characters and could have had adventures with them that I think would have sold and they would have been popular, but they never went that route for some reason. Rob D says, what EU lightsaber duels would you want to see in live action? My number one, he says, would have been Luke versus Shimra from New Jedi Order. Yes, I'd like to see that one. Jaina and Jason from Legacy of the Force. I'd like to see... Oh, what else would I like to see? Any fight with Exar Kun. Exar Kun versus Keldroma, maybe. I would like to see Nomi Sunrider have a lightsaber battle. I don't know against who, doesn't really matter. Same thing with Darth Bane. Probably that probably the last, this is odd, the last issue of Legacy, Star Wars Legacy, that huge lightsaber battle. I like seeing how that would go. Dylan from the expandeduniverse.com and I were talking this week about how a massive lightsaber battle would be set up. How would you, what would be going on for the people who aren't on the front line, just waving their lightsabers, cheering? No, they'd be doing something. What about battle meditation? What about, force blows and force shields? What would you have? And so we started talking about this concept, and I thought it was ingenious, and I was really getting into it. And I said, Dylan, you got to write this. So hopefully he's writing that article, and you'll see it soon, because I think it's so interesting to me. Though that's a great what if. How does a battle happen? How do you strategize against a battle with just lightsabers? I love that idea. All right. Brendan says, fast zombies or slow zombies? You know what? I'm going to go with fast zombies. I love the remake of Dawn of the Dead. In fact, that's the only remake I ever enjoyed, movie remake that I can think of. This Nick's official says, of all the EU stories, do you have a favorite read that made you feel any of the following emotions? Story that made you laugh or felt happy while you're reading. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I was like, yeah. I mean, stuff that we've reviewed. I mean, anything I've enjoyed. All the books I've enjoyed have made me happy because they have certain scenes and stuff. Of course, laughing out loud, you could say Aaron Alston, who's super funny, Stackpole, who's super funny. I've laughed out loud at their books. Story that made you angry, felt like you wanted to write a completely different ending. 0, none. Remember, I told you, what's done is done, in my opinion. I was shocked at some of the character deaths they made. I was sad at a lot of them, but amen to all of them. If that's how they want to go with it, I'm fine. Story that made you sad, felt like you could cry, so it was so emotionally well written. Again, you look at some of the darker, like New Jedi Order and on stories that were really sad, but then you had stuff in between. You had Darksaber, you had the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series. There's a lot of sad moments. Heck, I would even say Deceived. The Old Republic book was kind of sad at times. One that did make me really sad and I cried really hard was Dawn of the Jedi, because it was so bad. Sarcasm. Michael writes a lot of strange questions, Michael, and I don't think I can answer all these, but I'll try. Tell me something more about President Donald Trump's Space Force. I know nothing about it. That only that I love the name. Space Force. I love that. Who's your favorite political inspirational leader of the United States as a Star Wars fan? None. I don't know. I don't know. There's some that are decent. Are there any that are aces? I don't. None that come to mind. None that come to mind. Remember, I usually vote independent. If you want to know, just because none of the two big parties represent what I believe. Do you have an idea on what George Lucas's mind for directing Star Wars sequel trilogy in the expanded universe? No. He wrote about, he was going to explain about midichlorians and stuff like that. No, what was it? The wheels or something like that. The force on a microscopic level, which I think would have been interesting to see. But I mean, he did say in that interview a while back that a lot of his ideas were from the expanded universe. He actually told Stephen Colbert, I think it was 2015 interview. I can't remember. It was the year that episode 7 came out, and it was at January, so it was very early that year. He said that I'm going to do something focused on the kids. He said, like the books. So maybe it's going to be like the books. We'll never know. What are your favorite Marvel Legends Epic Collection comic books? I don't have any of those, but I think they're nice. What are you most looking forward to? The Star Wars Expanded Universe being continued. What I want to see continued post-Jedi stuff. I'd love to see post-Jedi stuff get continued. What are your additional comments and thoughts for Missile Defense Agency Science Service Program if the Star Wars Universe franchise was an actual American Congress? You stumped me there. I have no idea. Sorry. No comment. Would you want to rename NASA's Juno space mission into Juno Eclipse? That'd be funny. I don't think many people would get it, but that'd be funny. All right. And then finally, John says, I know you seem to follow Lucasfilm's official canon guidelines concerning the expanded universe to the letter, but do you have a headcanon? And does it differ at all from what is official? And just to stop right there, I do not. I do not. I spoke out against headcanon a long time ago. It was on the channel, and I don't know where that video is now. It's been a year or so now, and I'm just not for headcanon. Now, a lot of my good friends have headcanon, and they like headcanon, but I just go with what was official from Lucasfilm. Like when Lucasfilm called the EU now Legends. Okay. It's labeled as Legends, and now you have the new official canon. Yeah, that's what it is. That's what it is now. I've always followed Lucasfilm, unlike all these other people, the EU haters, who are saying, "Oh, it was never considered canon." Yes, it was by Lucasfilm. Yes, it was. George didn't care either way. He had the three, his story, his Lucasfilm story, and the fan story, the three circles. He never mentioned the word canon. So, and I say Lucas didn't care. Lucas didn't care about the word canon. Obviously, he cared about the EU because we hear a billion stories about him putting his ideas or changing stories from the expanded universe. Why would he do that if he didn't care? And then, but you have people who are like, no, George was the authority then. Well, now, if George is the authority now, to him, his stories are the only thing he considers part of the movie. Well, they don't believe him now. They believe Lucasfilm. They want to quote Lucasfilm, where I've been more consistent in my argument, and Lucasfilm's always been the rising authority on what is canon and what is not. Go figure. And I got to plug Dylan again. Ugh. And the expandeduniverse.com, he actually wrote, I think, a 2-part series about headcanon, which was really good. I don't think he believes in it either. Would you want to read a book about Yoda's origin, or are you on the same mind of George Lucas that it's something that should be left hazy? No, that's another thing. George would never let the EU write about Yoda's origin for whatever reason. Now, me personally, I would have loved to have seen Yoda's origin explained, eventually. I don't know what George's idea was for not making it happen. All right, so finally, the last one, and I kept this one for last because, John, it was my favorite question. He says, I have a problem in that I'm slow at everything, and the problem is multitasking. And I have a problem multitasking. Excuse me. He said, I have a ton of books at my house that I intend to read, but I'm very slow. But I read very slowly, and I tend to take long breaks. Further, I can't seem to read more than one book at a time, or do more than one thing at a time. such as read a book and play a video game. I'm afraid I'm going to be an old man by the time I get around to all my various entertainment media, and then I'll have even more stuff piled up on top of it. Could you offer any advice for managing my time in this regard? Well, the reason I like this question so much is because the subject of time is very important to me. If you do not know, I always talk about time. I talk about time in my videos. I say, hey, this book or story is worth your time, or probably a waste of time, or not worth your time. I'm not just saying that as a phrase. Time is very important to me. We only have a limited supply, right? And we got to utilize it the best we can. So my best advice is you have to make the time. You have to discipline. You have to discipline yourself and decide where you want to make the time. I try to avoid the phrase, well, I didn't have the time to do that. And if I ever accidentally let that slip, I always correct myself and say, let me say I didn't make the time. Because the time is there. You just have to manage it. You have to make time for this, to do the videos, and do the podcast. I have to physically make the time. There are a billion other things I could be doing, but I got to make the time for them. I have a Nintendo Mini and a Super Nintendo Mini. I made the time to play those games and stopped reading books. Now I'm back on reading books. I just finished 3 history books, and I am almost done with the 3 Musketeers here. Getting close there. Less than 100 pages left of the 720-page beast of a novel that it is, but it's actually really good. And after that, I know what I'm going to do next. I specifically put down my time. Now, I don't watch as much TV. I think Better Call Saul is the only thing I'm watching on TV right now. And I'm not watching, I don't have Hulu. Hulu got rid of yesterday. Don't have Netflix. And so there's not much TV watching right now. But if there is TV that needs to be watching, you know, heck, I will watch it, you know, but I will also make the time for that. And you just gotta, you know, just discipline and put your time in pockets and decide what you want to spend it on. And do what's important. Don't force feed yourself the EU. You will learn to hate it, you know. And I understand sometimes you got to take a break and give it a rest and then come back. Don't take too long a break or you'll forget the whole book entirely. You have to start over again. But when I'm filming, recording, and studying for these videos, you know, I actually do those in spurts. So right now, past week or so, past few weeks, these are all my mini notes. Just giving a brief outline from where I'm at right now to try to get to Empire. Now it took a couple of weeks to do that, and then it'll take a few more weeks to record everyone because I gotta know what I want to say. I really focus on avoiding spoilers. I know I do a lot of jump cuts in the videos, but a lot of times when I'm filming, I will make a mistake, or I'll screw up the beginning and I want to start all over again, and I have to keep the irritation out of my voice when I do that. I also feel like I give away too much. A lot of times that happens. I'll go into detail in the story, and I don't want to do that. The purpose of these videos is not to give you a report, because anyone can give you a book report, right? There's a lot of older videos of people, not in all these stories, but some of the big novels, who give their thoughts. They give you point by point what happened here and there. And I thought that's no fun, because then they won't read it. They'll say, okay, I got the synopsis. That doesn't interest me. Moving on. And I want you to read it. And I want you to decide, even if it's bad. I said, well, it's not for me. If it's for you, great. You know, I always encourage anyone who thinks, when I talk bad about a book, if you think I'm wrong, put it in the comments. Please, please. Because I want people to have their own opinion and not just go by my opinion and say, oh, well, Matt said it sucks, so I'm not going to read it. I mean, even Dawn of the Jedi, which I just made fun of, which I think is horrible. I think it's a horrible book. If you liked it, great. Great. And should you give it a try? If I don't like it, yes, you should. And then you can agree with me later on YouTube. That's a terrible book. Anyway, regardless of that, though, I sometimes give away stuff that happened. And I'm trying to avoid that, because I'm like, no, that's a cool time. I want to, and I even say that to myself in the video. I go, why am I talking about this? I can't talk about this. Moving on. Start over. Because I feel like I talk too much about, I talk too much in detail of the story. I try to give a short summary and then give you my thoughts or my memories or the connections and stuff like that, and then let you decide the book. That's kind of how I want those videos to go. Anyway, So I do a bunch of those back to back to back to back over a week or two. And then I sit back a little bit longer, take another little break, and then I go back and edit, which is horrible. Editing one video after another, rendering them all. So I don't do it. I don't like rush myself like I'm burning. I don't burn myself out this way if I do it in spots, you know. And I think the studying for it, you know, putting together all these notes is my least favorite. Even though I don't like editing, I think this is my least favorite, just because there's so much that I have to do digging wise, and I find myself backtracking a lot and going, oh wait, I got this. Oh wait, I got this too. Oh, I totally forgot about the series. Where do I put this? And because like I said, there, in my opinion, there isn't really a great timeline established out there. There's some good ones. There's some decent ones. But they're just, in my mind, they're not as good as I want. I just want simple stories. Some people break it down by chapters. Some people break it down by events, which is very like Nathan Butler's timeline, Star Wars Timeline Gold. My goodness, it's very fascinating to look at because he took who knows how much time out of his life to put that together. I mean, you know, decades of time. But for me, it's just too much detail. Just give me the story. What story should I read next? That's kind of what I want. So I'm doing it the way that I would want to do it. But anyway, I just have to discipline myself and say, okay, here's what I'm doing now. Here's what I'm doing now. When am I going to finish this book? Hopefully this weekend. But you know what? I've got to go work out. I've got to mow the grass, and I got to clean the house today. And the missus will be back, and we're going to go. We didn't celebrate our 10-year anniversary Thursday because I was out. And Friday, last night, she was busy. So tonight we're going out and doing that. So I have to plot out all exactly what I need to do today. What's the best way to utilize my time? What do I want to do? I want to chill out and read a book. That's what I want to do all day. Probably can't do that. But we will see if there's time to be made at that point. So just discipline. That was a really long answer for that question, but I really just enjoyed that question. Okay, Snoopy has a hurricane headed toward him in North Carolina. Stay safe. Actually, isn't that a tropical storm now? I don't remember. If it is, stay safe. Either way, we had one rolled through here, but didn't really. Well, the neighbor had this huge tree, and a huge branch fell in my backyard, and it's his fence that's getting destroyed. Well, not really. I don't think it's destroyed. It got hit, but it's in my yard. There's a huge branch covering up a good portion of my backyard, and they didn't even know. They didn't even know that it was in there, and I didn't know because I just got back in from a trip yesterday, and I just found out. But who knows how long that storm's been going? They don't check their backyard. I mean, I don't look at my backyard every day either, but who knows how long? But they looked at me like when I knocked on the door, like, "What do you mean?" I said, "There's a big tree limb, and it's on your side, but it's the branch has crashed into my backyard. You may need to fix that." You know, I even offered to help move it off if when they saw it off, it's going to fall into my backyard. But it's from their tree, and I couldn't even do it even if it was on my land too, because it's too tall of a tree. So hopefully they're going to get that fixed so I can mow the grass. But I decided to go ahead and mow the grass and mow around it, even though it's just going to be a nightmare. Anyway, like you wanted to hear that. Jess Reed, how I was able to go through the mess that was the Clone Wars. Oh, as much as I complain about the Rebellion era, it ain't no Clone Wars. I'm glad to wash my hands of that mess. I remember when I first started the series that the one thing I feared the most was the Clone Wars timeline. It was because it's such a hard mess because there's no dates for a lot of this, for a lot of the little mini adventures, or there's just crammed moments in there. And so now I'm through that. The only thing I fear now is this Rebellion era. Once I'm done next year, it'll be next year, I think. I'm done with, because Empire of Jedi has a lot too, but not as much, but still a lot, which will probably carry me out through the end of the year, maybe. But once I get through all that, sky's the limit after that, right? You know, blue skies. It's going to be great. But yeah, Clone Wars was a mess. Steven says, "Hi, Matt. Huge inspiration. You and the disappointment that is the sequel trilogy has inspired me to delve into the EU. Absolutely. Love it. Reading 2 novels a week now. Whoa! There you go. Steven is making the time. Good. I'm glad. I'm currently reading, John Collins, I'm currently reading Runes of Tatooine. Your thoughts on it? Coming soon. Coming soon. I like when I talked about how Choices of One was the worst cover ever. Everyone mentioned Runes of Tatooine, which is true. Let's see. Ooh, a lot of questions already. Why are there no black holes or wormholes or anything sci-fi space related stuff other than hyperspace? That was a choice they made. There was something. It wasn't a wormhole, but it was something that accelerated them and shot them through time once. But yeah, they just decided, I guess, not go that way. Jen Acolyte says that he recalls the original Lucas wanted Ron Howard to do Phantom, Eric Kirshner for Clones, and Spielberg for Sith. I remember hearing he was going to do, and Jedi Acolyte, this could be the same article, because I remember reading this. I want to say it was an old Lucasfilm fan magazine. I want to say because it mentioned, I remember reading this, it mentions, it was talking about young Indiana Jones, which was going on at the time, and how Lucas's next project will be to do the prequels, and that he would do the first one, and Ron Howard and Spielberg would do the following two. Now, I don't know if that means Ron Howard would be 2, Spielberg would be 3, but you have something very similar here that sounds, you know, similar to what I read. So I wonder if it's that old Lucasfilm Limited, you know, magazine, which turned into what's the magazine now called? Oh my goodness, I can't remember now. See what happens when they stop printing the EU. But anyway, well, now that's going to bother me. Star Wars Insider. Stupid. Hey, Matt, have you ever read The Star Wars? Yes. I'll tell you what I think. I think it sucked. I hated it. I hated it. I know it's the George Lucas. It's the, you know, original idea for Star Wars in comic book form. I'm not going to review that because it was never considered canon. It's just an alternate storyline. I know a lot of people loved it, thought it was interesting. I did not like it. Oh, that's right, Jedi Acolyte. There is a mall. That's true. Jess found the Dune book boring. That's fine. Don't mind. Great Schools of Dune. There it is. Thank you for that. The mall. The mall, is it canon? Well, old canon. I don't know about new canon. Have I heard about the Star Wars Despecialized editions? Yeah, I knew a guy who was working on that. It's like doing the original movie cuts without the special, without the, you know, the 1997 cut. Yeah, it's nice idea. I don't even know what happened to it. It should be done by now, right? Seems like that's been going on for years. What other books from the New Republic are good to read except the Throne trilogy? I don't know. I'm a big fan of the Bantam novels and anything Del Rey did afterwards. That whole era has a lot of good stuff in it. Mind Flayer, what are your thoughts on Tahiry? I'm just wrapping up the New Jedi Order. I'm loving her arc so far. Oh yeah, she's great. It's funny that they took a character from some children's novels who wasn't that important and made her into such a great character in New Jedi Order. I loved it. Well, apart from Jason Solar, what other Fall to the Dark Side stories are in the EU? Which is the best? Ooh, well, Jason Solo is pretty good, but Ulick Qel-Droma is a really good one too. I love his story actually from Tales of the Jedi. His is, yeah, that'd be second best maybe. or maybe even first, and maybe even better than Jason's, to be honest, because Redemption is a phenomenal ending to that story. So there you go. If you want to read some comic books, Tales of the Jedi, fantastic. The Dune director is the same that did Arrival, which I can't remember if I've seen. I can't remember. And Blade Runner 2049, which I enjoyed. Oh, the Maul is in Solo, a Star Wars story. Oh, I didn't know that. Snoopy says, have I read the Silmarillion? Yes, I have. I love the Silmarillion. Of the new books that are coming out by Christopher Tolkien from his dad's writings, Children of Hurin is really good. I just finished. I can't see it. Baron and Lutherith. I don't know how to say your last name. And that one's no good. No good. In fact, The Fall of Gondolin, I'm not even going to buy. It's out right now. I'm not going to buy it. Because now he's Children of Hurin was just a mash. He took all the Silmarillion stories and Unfinished Tales and Lost Tales 1 and 2 and combined them into one fluid story, and I like that one. But the other ones were no good. He's running out of material. He's basically just reprinting stuff and reformatting things and then talking about it for like 100 pages because he has trouble filling the book with content, relevant content. So yeah, sorry, he's out of idea. Once he did the history of Middle Earth, he should have stopped there, to be honest. After that series was done, but Silmarillion is actually, it's a boring read. A lot of people will not enjoy that. But if you're a huge Lord of the Rings fan like I am, the Silmarillion is worth the read. I think I enjoyed it. Darth Maul comic books is part of both new canon and Legends continuity. Yes. One of the few things that are. Oh, Captain Willem. He knew. He keeps up with that. What I read in Tolkien. I do love Tolkien, though. Love Tolkien. Okay. Had Disney not given EA exclusive rights to Star Wars games, which other game companies would you like to see make Star Wars games? I don't know. I'm not really big into video games anymore. How about anyone but EA? They were the worst. They were the worst. I think they should have kept LucasArts, to be honest. I don't know why you'd shut down a studio that does something that you could do in-house. That made no sense to me to get rid of LucasArts. If Obi-Wan was hiding from Luke, then why didn't he change his name, or why he hide him in his uncle's farm? He put him in his uncle's farm because those are Barus, those are family. Remember in Revenge of the Sith, he's told to do so in the novel. I think that was in the movie too, but in the novel, Obi-Wan does change his name to Old Ben, is how you call him. So it still gives you an idea of who he was, but doesn't reveal it. Because I mean, come on, Ben, Old Ben. That's not saying, oh wait, Old Ben. That sounds like Obi-Wan. No one's gonna make that connection. So he just shortened his name and changed it and took on the character of a old hermit. I think Phil was enough. And remember, there's thousands, millions of planets in the universe. So Tatooine is a planet that he knows Darth Vader has feelings about, like his mother died there. So Darth Vader's never going to set foot on that planet again because of all those memories. He knows that, and that's why he thinks that's the safest place to hide them. So because Vader's like, I'm never going back there again. I'm done with that place. That dust balls, I'm done with it. Do you feel Crucible was good enough ending for the big characters? No, I actually wrote a uh, uh, what's it called? Article about that in a book called, and I thought, where's my book? A More Civilized Age. How do I not know the name of my own book? By Sequard. I wrote, that was my story about how I didn't feel Crucible was a proper ending, but it was never meant to be. It was never meant to be a proper ending. But that's what my article wrote. That's what I talked about. Someone recently told me about something called Light Sith from the games. I'm not too familiar with the games. Do you know what Light Sith are? No. Never heard that terminology before, though, so I'll have to look that up. Any idea of what might happen to the Star Wars Old Republic MMO after the contract runs out? No idea. No idea. I'm sure they'll renew it because it's still making money. I don't think they'd ever stop that. Too big of a moneymaker. And that's true, Jacob. I don't really care about the games as much. They were a huge impact to the EU. Don't get me wrong. Huge impact to the EU. I just didn't get into the games that much. Captain Wilhelm says, from what I understand, Lucas did originally plan a sequel trilogy, but by the time he got to Return of the Jedi, he was so burned out, so tied up plot threads, and he was going to leave them dangling for the sequels. I think, well, you never know with George because the story always changes, whether he had intentions or not. I heard he was, after Jedi, he was going to go back and do the prequels. We heard that as kids, that the prequels were going to come out, and that the first episode was going to be called the Golden Jedi. That 80s rumor, and it was going to be about young Obi-Wan. That's what we remember. I remember using after Jedi came out. That's all we talked about. Was up next is the prequels. They're coming. He's gonna give time. He's gonna give it a little break, and he's gonna come back. And then they never came back. Well, at least not immediately. Oh no 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 no. Hold on. What is this? Oh oh oh. Oh, just when I thought it was at the bottom. That always happens to me. All right. Then I get a lot more. All right, here we go. What? Do you think Han Solo is overrated by movie fans? It's like there's no love for Lando. Josh, I agree with that. I love Lando. I think he's an awesome character. He's not overrated. I can't say Solo's overrated. He's a great character too, and I understand why a lot of people love him. I can't hate on Solo, even though it's cool. Everyone loves Solo. Everyone wants to be Han Solo, which I told you back in the 80s was not true. Everyone on my block wanted to be Luke Skywalker. They wanted to be a Jedi. They wanted to have the Force. To be truthful, though, my little brother did love Han Solo. He would always choose to be Han Solo, and then we'd be Luke Skywalker from Hoth, Luke Skywalker on Bespin, Luke Skywalker on Tatooine, Luke Skywalker in an X-wing pilot, Luke Skywalker in Jedi. I mean, we made up different costumes for Luke Skywalker, and that was the Luke Skywalkers we were all. So there's like 10 Luke Skywalkers and one Han Solo running around the playground at the time. And the Han Solo was my brother. So when my brother says he loves Han Solo, I really believe him. And then as the years went by, everyone thought, yeah, Han's a cool one to like. And yeah, he's cool. He's cool. I don't think he's overrated, though. A lot of people do love him who didn't back in the day. A lot of comments here. That's nice. Y'all are having fun. That means I was boring y'all through one of my answers, right? This is back when I was talking about time management, I bet. Will I be doing more comic book reviews in the Star Wars Expanded Universe? Oh, yeah, always. There's tons of comic books to review. Hopefully by 2021 we'll get other revenues of EU content. Oh yeah, by the time I finish my series. Which war do you think was the worst in Star Wars history? I have no idea. That's a great question, though. Which war did I think was awful? I mean, you want to say the Nagai War because it's called the Forgotten War, I guess, but I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. I never thought about that. Is there a war that was wasted that was just dumb? I don't know. There probably was, but I don't know. If the EU was continued, would you still want Timothy Zahn to write stories in it? Because based on your choices of one review and things he said recently, I don't think he cares about continuity. If it was, I don't think he wants to be a part of it, and because Timothy Zahn likes having less restrictions. And so now that he's back in a world where there's not as much content, he wants to do as much as he can and have his own little sandbox again. And I think he was upset because some of his characters had passed away, and he was kind of boxed in on where he could write, and you could tell. I think I could tell that he was kind of frustrated with all the rules and restrictions. So I don't think he'd be a good fit now, And I know I've dumped on some of his books recently. I do like some of his stuff. I just thought his later stuff got worse and worse. I think Zahn came out like boom, and then Thrawn trilogy was the best, and then he came out with other stuff which was okay. It was still good, and then he went to mediocre on one book. I was like, oh, that's my least favorite of them all, but it's still okay. And then he went to I started having complaints with him, like Choices of One, Scoundrels, stuff like that. I thought were not good. So, for whatever reason, I gave my thoughts on it, but I don't think he'd want to come back if the Legends did continue. Mandalore, that is the exact problem with the Clone Wars. The dates were set, and then the Clone Wars series came in and screwed up all the dates, and they had to rewrite history over and over and over again to squeeze the timeline tighter and tighter and tighter. When will you review Empire Strikes Back? Someone didn't watch my Star Wars update. February, probably. That's my guess. Would I have loved The Force Unleashed 3? Yes. Yes. Would love to have seen that. Oh, that's later. I think it's later. What do you think canceled 1313? Disney's buyout. What do you like about the first volume of Star Wars Insider Magazine? I don't know, that it came out. Are you okay? John is asking for a placement of Honor Among Thieves, which I'm going. I mean, I like I said, I'm writing out my notes now. That's somewhere in these notes. I don't know. I'll find a placement for it. Oh, shoot. Real quick, let's see. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't know. It's in here somewhere. I'm gonna review it. It's somewhere in my review. I'll give you my thoughts on where it should go. Right now, I can't. I don't have time to look through all those notes. Somewhere in the notes. It was hard to place that one, but I'm gonna put it in the best place I know. I know how, right? What's my opinion on Junior Jedi Knights? Oh, fun books. Fun books. Can't wait to review them. Are you a fan of Farscape? Says Robert Rains. No, but I'd love to watch it. I know that's on Amazon Prime, and I had it in my queue for a while, but I haven't made the time to watch it. Still got other things to watch, but I want to watch it. Tahiry, Juno, or Lana, who would I like the most? Tahiry, out of those three. Am I a fan of Firefly? Oh yeah, love Firefly. I think I did a podcast on that one a long time ago. But yeah, Firefly's great. When I get to Shadows of the Empire, am I going to talk about the Nintendo 64 game? I will mention it, but I'm not going to go into detail on the game. I played it. I played it. Is it the best game for N64 ever? Not in my opinion, but it was good. It was just as good as all the other Super Nintendo games for Star Wars. But I'll talk a little bit about it, but not much probably. I'll probably mention it's probably all. I'm going to focus on the book, not the comic book version of stories, not the children's junior novelization of the story, just the regular novels what I'm going to focus on. But I can't wait to do that one. That's going to be fun. Dark Phoenix says, did I ever watch Power Rangers? No. Well, I did. I did for a short time. I thought they were a ripoff of Voltron, so I eventually stopped. The Missus is a huge Power Ranger fan. In fact, she has a poster with all the originals besides Trini, of course, because she passed away. But she has autographs of all the original Power Rangers in one big poster signed. It's really incredible. So the Missus is a huge Power Ranger fan. Are you a fan of the Dark Knight trilogy? Not really. I thought the first one was good. I thought the second one was great. And I thought the third one was not good. Kind of aggravating how it ended. So overall, no, they were okay. Christopher Nolan is not good at superhero movies. People are going to get really upset for me for saying this, but he hates making superhero movies. He wanted to put Batman into the real world. And some of the things he did were ridiculous choices because you're dealing in a comic book world. But I don't think he knew how to mesh those very well. And like I said, I just love Dark Knight. And Dark Knight Begins was okay, too. It was pretty good. It was better than I thought it would be. But when I don't know, Christopher Nolan tries to make things, I don't know. He's just, a lot of people love him. A lot of people love him. To me, he's just okay. I'm not a big Christopher Nolan fan. There you go. I said it. Don't really, I mean, his stuff's okay. It's not, he's overrated. There you go. He's overrated, in my opinion. It's got to piss people off. How do I feel about the state of the DCU films? Awful. And I love DC. I love DC more than Marvel. And they do such a terrible job with their my wife wants to go watch Aquaman. We'll go see Aquaman. It looks like garbage. It looks like garbage. Yuck. Do you want Star Wars The Kessel Run Legends comic book created for more multimedia into a more multimedia project? Yeah, if they ever wanted to do it. Anything EU, I'd love to see. Are you a fan of the Man of Steel? No, I am not. Are you talking about the actual character Superman? No. Are you talking about the movie? Especially no. Hated Man of Steel. But a lot of people loved it. Activision would have been a good one. I didn't think about them, Dark Phoenix, or Activision to take over Star Wars games. Matt, what can I do to make you play video games again? I don't know. Come over and beat Mike Tyson's Punch Out for me on my mini NES. I can't seem to get to Mike Tyson now. I'm really, well, they changed how you beat Soda Popinski. It ticked me off. I just play older games now, if I play games at all. So I just don't have the time for it. I'm not going to make the time for it. Actually, I should say I'm not going to make the time for it because I've got many other things I'd rather be doing. I love board games. I love reading, and those trump video games every time, every time. Dark Phoenix says, if you could have an hour-long conversation with any historical figure, then who would you choose and what would you ask them? Well, recently I've been reading about the war between the states. So Jefferson Davis right now, that would change when the next history book comes around. There's a lot of past presidents too I'd like to talk to. Of course, Washington, Lincoln, Zachary Taylor. I mean, the man died eating cherries and milk, supposedly. What's he like? I don't know. That's a good question. Right now, it'd be Jefferson Davis, just because I read some Civil War books. All right. I remember a cake that had figurines of all the characters. If it was a Marvel comic book, an old Marvel comic book, I don't know. It may have been some special anniversary issue, I'm guessing. I don't know. Have I played the new PS4 Spider-Man game? It's amazing. No, I haven't played it, but I know some friends who were super excited to get it. Woo! I'm not going to make it to the end of these, am I? But you do get bonus minutes because I started late. That's the rule. If I start late, you get bonus minutes. All right, where am I now? All right. Do I wish the EU did more to show the relationship of Anakin and the Lars family? I find it hard to believe they would raise a kid after meeting him once 3 years before. Yeah, but you know what? I guess no one thought that'd be an interesting story. Luke growing up would have been an interesting story. Them dealing with the kid, focusing on the Lars, raising Luke, I think would have made for a good story. They just never got around to it. Never got around to it. Do you like Abeloth as a concept, says General Kenobi? Yeah, I do. I thought it was really good. I was prepared not to like her, and then they tied her into Dave Filoni's Clone Wars. I was like, oh, doggone it. This actually makes sense. It's pretty smart. Um, wasn't there an interview with Gary Kurtz that after Jedi, there was going to be a sequel trilogy with Luke Skywalker trying to find his sister Leia from becoming queen of what remained of Alderaan? I have no idea. I never heard that one. Tell me more about Winter. She was Leia's best friend growing up in Alderaan. They don't have much on her. How do you feel if Rogue One featured Ahsoka Tano, Captain Rex, and the Clone Wars characters as the main heroes instead of Disney's boring new characters? I wouldn't have cared either way. You replace boring characters with more boring characters. Totally kidding. I'm totally kidding about Captain Rex. Can we all agree that the best war was the Great Hyperspace War? I don't think it was the best one. But if everyone else agrees, that's fine. Would you have liked to seen a Darth Vectivus book? Oh yeah, of course. Anything EU. If it's old canon, I would have loved to have seen it. The answer is always yes. Why is this thing not scrolling down? There we go. Wait, what do you think of the Skywalker family novel starring Luke. What do I think of one? Set between Darkness and Legacy of the First, written by John Whitman. Yeah, I think anything John Whitman, he should have gotten his own novel. I think he was just a great. Obviously, I've been talking about him with his Galaxy of Fear series, but I think he was a great writer, and I would love to have seen him write a novel. Ryder Wenham should have gotten a novel because I think he's really fantastic too. And Dave Wolverton should have gotten more novels because I think he's really great. David Farland is his actual name. Those were three underutilized novelists, I think. They should have gotten more stuff. Have I seen the Darth Maul images that Disney put out? No. I keep hearing about how George Lucas didn't like Mara Jade. Do you think it's true? And he didn't, or is it rumors created by the funny skit? I think it's rumors. I think he enjoyed Mara Jade. What's my opinion? Mara being episode 9? I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just rumor. Oh, Farscape isn't on Amazon Prime anymore? Uh-oh. Well, then the answer is no, I'm not going to watch it then. It was a while back because I tagged them all. But, oh well. Do you like the Transformers Extended Universe comic books? Never read them. Never read them. So no comment. I recently read an interview where it was stated that New Jedi Order should have been a 40-book series. Would you have preferred it that way? Yeah. I love the New Jedi Order. 80 books. What would they have been about? Who cares? Oh, yeah, man. I was always for them opening up the floodgates and bringing me as many books as they could. What do I think of the DC animated movies? I think they're great. I think where they fail in the cinematic movies, they shine in those animated movies. DC's really good in the animated movies. Do I like reading more DC comic books or Marvel comic books? Well, recently I had that Marvel collection I read through, but I would have preferred to be DC because I love DC comic books better. Have you seen Equilibrium? Yes, I have. It is a great movie. A little dated with the special effects, but great. Are you a history major? Yes, I was. History was my major, and I do read a lot of history books. I don't always read a lot of history books. Just recently, I got on a kick where I wanted to study up and read on something, the war between the states. And so I had 3 books where I borrowed it from my dad and read all 3 of those. And now, like I said, I'm on to 3 Musketeers now, and almost done with that. After that, it may be time for C.S. Lewis's space trilogy. It's maybe time to reread that. I think that's coming up on the list. But I got a lot of other things I need to work on too. One more. Let's try one more. If you could go back in time and be anybody, who would you choose to be? Me. That's a dumb answer, isn't it? Sorry. I don't know. Let me see if I can find another one. We need to meet up and play board games. There you go. Yeah, board games, baby. I'm actually going to be playing the heck out of some board games the next couple of weeks and really huffing through it. I got about 15 games I want to get played. My board game question. My board game order is not going to come through anytime soon. So no board game reviews for the foreseeable future, just Matt's Expanded Universe, which I know is going to make everyone super happy, except for those 50 people who watch my board game reviews. Anyway,
And I need more people in my board game group. My board game group got splintered again, and now I'm having trouble even getting the maximum. Well, I can get about 5 now instead of. But I mean, back in the day, I had to alternate. 4, 6, 6, 4, and now I can gather probably 5. I mean, we're trying to get together. We played Twilight Imperium last weekend, or no, for Labor Day. And we talked about doing an 8-player Twilight Imperium 3, but we can only come up with 7 players. So I need to find my 8th player. So maybe that could be you. Anyway, folks, hey, it's been a lot of fun. I got a jet. I got to get some stuff. It looks like it's going to rain. So maybe cut the grass real quick. But I'll make the time for that. Anyway, guys, fun as always. Had a great time. See you later on next week.